What is up, guys? It's your boy GRC. We're coming at you live every single day, 11 a.m. Eastern, until the wheels fall off, baby. Until the SEC comes knocking on my door, baby. Let's go. We're taking over. Guys, we have special guest Blue Bum in the house. We might have another special guest or two at the latter half, but Blue Bum's coming on the show today. We're going to look at some stuff, the BTC, the ETH, the meltdowns, the memes. We're going to check them out. There's stuff going on. And me, Sam, and Blue Bum and Bullish, we're just laughing at it all, really. I shouldn't put the words in Blue Bum's mouth because haven't asked him in a while, but generally he's pretty laid back. Crypto should be that way. DeFi should be that way. And if you understand what's going on in these ecosystems, there's opportunities galore. I mean, there's really opportunity. Like me and Sam could sit here all day back and forth, probably come up with like 50, 60 decent opportunities. Maybe not all of them like massively optimal, but imagine there's still opportunities. There's low liquidity assets with product market fit that are new that people frankly don't understand. People frankly don't understand liquidity providing Uniswap v3. And I'll do a quick little plug. ETH POW, when all the gas fees got crazy, I decided, you know what? I want to provide liquidity still. So I went back to ETH POW and I said, wow, the gas fee structure here is amazing. And I started providing Uniswap v3 liquidity for no gas fees. I felt like I was having fun. I was learning while ETH gas fees were perma-wrecked. So there's that. We're going to be talking about BTC. We're going to be talking about SBF. We're going to be talking about the SEC. We got Sam. We got Blue Bum. This is no jokes, guys. I don't know what the markets are doing right now, but I'm assuming they're big red candles. So we'll see what's going on. I am crypto in the morning, guys. This is crazy time in crypto. The best time to be in crypto is right now. It's right now. It's great. I'll see you.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking no blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim Reddit sent me to show you the way. Crypto in the morning. 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 Crypto in the morning.
Ooh, what is good? I just saw the news. Sam Bankman has stepped down. Well, I'm sorry. Sam Bankman has been forced out of SBF. He is no longer the CEO. Probably a very good thing for crypto in general to have somebody like that have less power, right? I think that we should have less of that type of behavior.
Talk about the politics. Where does this change the politics? You know he was paying those guys. You know that they love puppets. He's not a puppet anymore because everyone hates him. Puppets aren't great when everyone hates them. They're only great when everyone thinks they're the savior. The dynamic changed. Bullish for DeFi. What do you think, Sam?
The thing that comes into my mind is like, what's that guy? Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates now out of the spotlight. When he, right, had all this bad publicity because of what he was doing that was not good for the American people, was not good for the space he was in. It was anti-competitive. So what did he do? He took millions of dollars to create a foundation with this goal of doing something and then used his money to change the perception so people think of Bill Gates as a good guy. But in reality, he's in the background trying to pull the strings. That's what came to mind with SBF.
What came to mind for me is that this is exactly how I see it. I could be totally off. There was a serial nerd. He became a serial trader in the best time in history to be a trader. Then he got he started getting his ego up about shit. Then the politicians knew because he has social blind spots. Hey, what's that beeping?
It's the gains of crypto that are going away by tick by tick.
But I think they used him, and I think the power got to him, and they knew it would, and they were hoping that he was smart enough to keep his end of the deal up. And guess what? He traded his way to a bear market failure with leverage, and that's exactly what occurred. And then that's probably the only way he could keep up with their demands. Hold on one second. I gotta step away. I gotta step away for 1 second.
Okay, you want to start? You want to? We'll bring in Blue Bum in a minute, guys. Awesome.
Yes, we got a special guest, Blue Bum. Sorry, I want to do. I got something's beeping over there. We have special guest Blue Bum. I'm going to be right back. We're going to watch some funny videos, but then we're going to get really serious. Bullish. I also want to get you to have that video pulled up, which I think he does. I'm excited to watch it, guys. Bluey Blue.
Man.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, how are you doing this morning, sir? Thank you for taking the time.
I'm excellent. Just thinking back, what's happening now in crypto is what should have happened in 2008 to the traditional finance system.
Talk about that for a second, please, because I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what should have happened in 2008. But instead, what happened is they bailed all of these bad actors out. And this is a really necessary process in the market. It's flushing out the bad actors and letting the cream rise to the top. And the cream is Hex, Hedron, and Icosa. Sorry,
they went through and they took printed money, right? I'm reading through this book right now on the history of central banking and how people say this, but they don't really fully understand it. But the central bank is not part of the government, and the way that it is structured, it is just shown after civilization after civilization after civilization after civilization after civilization. The list goes on. It is going to fail structured in this way, right? And that's kind of like how this thing is with the way that Sam Bankman set this up with what happened in 2008, bailing things out. This should fail. Bad things should be allowed to die. The school system should die a lot faster than it currently is.
How does that happen? It's slow, but it's happening. I don't see the people not bringing their kids to school. They're driving them separate. The bus systems don't work in certain areas anymore. That's what I see around here. And I think the bus areas, like, they don't even come to certain areas anymore. So okay. I think, but anyways, I forgot. Sorry for interrupting. And I'm so glad that both of you guys are here today. Let's play this video so we can just catch a swing tune for this. And let's remember, Blue Bum, when we're not talking, we're just going to mute our mic. I know it's so annoying, but we're going to try to do that the best we can. And it just takes practice. But anyway, let's listen to these guys. We're going to see some tiers, some DeFi tiers, we call them, or CeFi tiers, I guess. But let's listen to this real quick. No single individual has ever done more damage to crypto than SBF FTX. It will take years to recover.
That would be one thing. But no, we had Theros Capital, but I mean before that we had Do Kwon, totally wrecked Celsius, and then I saw you tweet this out, by the way. Okay, answer me this: Theros Capital liquidated, Alameda liquidated, FTX insolvent. Then who made the money and who shows up? Richard freaking Hart goes, "Hi there, I made all the money." Okay, this dude is a scammer. He runs he's got a coin called Pulse. He's preying on people, making tons of money, and he's actively scamming. And I feel like our industry is still full of people like this. For every Vitalik, for every Brian Armstrong, for every Hayden Adams or Stani from Aave, we have like 100 Richard Harts. And that just sucks. So what do we do about this? How do we move forward?
Why don't you build something, you dumb bitch?
How are you feeling about this, David?
It's like we have these like super awesome foundations, and They just keep on enabling the worst.
Do you think that
Like, it's hard to justify what the hell we're doing here, man.
Do you think this is a layer 0 problem? Is it a problem with kind of the social layer?
It's like, if we'll make these super cool applications and then scammers just can leverage them better. It's like we're running out of ways to explain it to normal.
Pause it. I want to keep it, but I want to talk for a second to my boys. Sam, I want you to go first. What do you think? Because Sam could have a totally different perspective. I got a little upset at the end of that thing. I kind of felt him in a weird way. I'm just going to be honest. Sam, what do you think?
Well, we saw some of that clip to finish watching, but I mean, it's just like a lot of media players, right? These guys have a successful podcast channel, a successful YouTube channel. Probably millions, if not tens of millions of people have listened to them. They know all the top players in the industry. I've listened to their podcast before. And there's the media. They're the mainstream media, so to speak, like BitBoy and stuff in crypto. And when we talk about mainstream media, one of the biggest things that we know about mainstream media, they're not very well informed. So this, you can see this right away. He has his coin. It's called Pulse. Like, clearly, it's just he doesn't know what he's talking about.
He didn't know. He got confused. He said centralized exchange. He said he's got a centralized. Oh, never mind. Because he didn't even know. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He does, but that doesn't mean that like he's clearly got this belief that's sitting there that Hex is a scam, or that Pulse is a scam, or that Richard Hart is a scam for whatever reason it is, because the way that he comes off, like guys like him. It's like, now Blue Bum, I would love to know your honest take on this. And the boys, those two boys themselves, the man's crying. He actually feels the way he feels. He might be ignorant, but he does feel that way. And do you feel any similar way? I know you don't think Richard Hart's a scam artist, of course, but do you feel anything about the industry?
Look, he's obviously very deluded, and like when you have such an emotional reaction like that, the best thing to do is to really look at yourself, and like discovering the truth is a personal journey, and you have to have humility. You have to admit that you are wrong, that you could be wrong, and go and look back. And maybe he's on the start of that journey. I don't know.
Seems like he wants to quit.
Yeah, and he does have a point though. The point is that like when you have permissionless systems, yeah, scammers do jump on board. And like, how many rug pulls have we seen? How many, how much other shit have we seen being promoted that people are buying into? And so, but what he doesn't understand, he can't actually see the difference between the good stuff and the bad stuff. And my logical brain says it's just a matter of time until he realizes. But by the same token, maybe it's going to take a really, really long time. And I'm curious about their podcast because they got like 188,000 subscribers on YouTube. But you look on Twitter, like they don't have anywhere near the engagement.
Dude, Twitter's weak sauce. People don't like Twitter till now. Twitter's gotten hot like the last month, in my opinion. But like in general, people don't even really mess with Twitter. And these guys like literally have all the best dude. They have Vitalik on their podcast. Like literally Vitalik comes on their podcast. And like so they're locked and connected all the way because why? Remember what we said about the puppets? They're a little bit dumb. Vitalik's never going to want to come on this show unless I got huge, of course, right away, because there's some risk there. These guys have zero risk when it comes to coming on their show. They're as friendly as they get. They'll never talk crap. And they don't like guys like Richard Hart. They're like my mother. Like, like it's just like classic. But let's get back into this, guys. Make sure you're smashing the like. Blue Mom, I appreciate your take on that. I think Richard Hart is a good man, personally. And I think DeFi has a long way to go, but that does not mean there's opportunities galore.
They just keep on enabling the worst.
Do you think that
it's hard to justify what the hell we're doing here, man?
Do you think this is a layer 0 problem? Is it a problem with kind of the social layer?
It's like, if we'll make these super cool applications and then scammers just can leverage them better. It's like we're running out of ways to explain it to normies.
So when someone asks you about crypto after this week, do you have a different answer for them about why it's important?
I don't even want to talk about it.
The thing that I think is missing here is that, like what Blue Bum was talking about, there's a transformation that's taking place in the financial system globally. And as you transition, there are eggs that are broken. There are people that are hurt, right? As we transition from one technology, from one way of doing things, from anything to something else, there are going to be people that are hurt. There's going to be also the legacy way of thinking coming into a new framework, trying to use this way of thinking in this new technology or this new paradigm shift. And when that happens, you're going to continue to see things like this happening. Now, these are actually beautiful times, because what this allows people to do is learn. This allows people to continue to get better. Like Blue One was talking about earlier, 2008, those banks should have never been bailed out. They should have gone bankrupt. You should not bail out the bad characters. And as this goes through, we should continue to advocate for the free market. When you have a free market, you're going to have this type of thing happen on a regular basis, because the bad guys will get exposed faster, which means they collapse, right? You're gonna have these aberrations until more and more people wake up and they realize this stuff. They understand what's actually taking place. But without these market crashes, you're not going to have people learn as quickly. And the idea is the faster you can learn, the better you'll be in the long run, right? Learning is extremely important. And if you don't understand what's going on and the risks involved, whether that's with leverage trading over there because that was a big...
If you don't understand, you got to understand. You just have to understand. And you should not be putting your money in until you do, in a large ticket, obviously. But I think it's important. Sam said it's a great time for learning. I think it's a great time for leaders. There's some people that walk around and they're happy and they're wealthy and they want to innovate and they smile when they wake up and they're excited about life for whatever reason. Those guys are not going to be hindered by FTX's failure. They haven't even seen it. I haven't even seen it. I felt nothing. People are like, oh, we're all so wrecked. And it's like, yeah, except the new guys like me that are just here, and Sam and like all these guys and the smart ones that are like not putting all their money in stupid shit, obviously. But there's new guys on the block. And I think that's important to remember. Jack Levin, just for an example, someone that wanted to come in the industry and step up. You think this makes it harder or easier for him? Easier. Richard, easier this makes it, because centralized scams are getting exposed all over the internet. The news should realize that they should stop promoting. If they want to take over, they should stop promoting their failures with the centralized scams, and they should just say they don't exist, because it's a media that really explodes these things. No one really knows what's going on. It's all fake internet money. I'm sorry. I'm going to read the tweet real quick from Ryan Sean Adams, and he was the guy on that show.
After the show.
Oh, this was right after his show. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry we didn't get more people bankless before I love the plug. I'm sorry we didn't get more people bankless before something like this happened. We didn't do enough education. We didn't create easy enough crypto wallets. We didn't root out all the villains. We will keep trying. We will do better. You know what you did is you stayed stupid and dumb the whole time, you moron. That's all I have to say about it. You stayed flimsy. You made it about your work and not about intellectual integrity. And I'm sure you got so many brag. And a couple people asked to play that video back through one more time, because he really did ask about Hex for a second. And we want to make sure that gets exposed as much as possible for the next bull run.
Also, Sam Bankman, an hour ago, we heard about FTX filing bankruptcy, but we also understand that FTX US is a separate entity. Well, in his tweet, he says that he filed for FTX as well as FTX US. So even though supposedly FTX US was not in a liquidity crunch, well, too bad for the efforts who have their money.
They scammed him. They said it was good. They told everyone in the US to scam.
24 hours ago, he said it was fine.
I have that tweet pulled up as well after the video.
He's the biggest scam artist in the history of scam artists.
Blue One, what do you think about all this?
It's hard to work out how deluded Sam Bankman-Fried is. From his latest tweet, it seems as though he really believes this his own narrative. But in actual fact, what they were doing was they were giving their customers money to Alameda. And if you want to have a real good laugh, go check out some like videos on the CEO of Alameda, because it's just unbelievable that people
Alameda
gave them so
research
much
doesn't
money.
exist anymore. I don't know what you're talking about. It stopped existing yesterday. You can't. There's no website. There's no domain. There's nothing.
All you need to do is watch 5 minutes of that woman, that CEO, and you just realize what on earth
Yeah,
are people
I'll
doing.
pull it up. There's even in a clip. There's a clip floating around where she's pretty much saying like, "Yeah, we've done bad deals," and someone in the background is pretty much telling her like, "Shut up, don't talk about that."
And so so FTX gave customer money to Alameda. Alameda in return gave FTX the FTT token, which is like, and how can they not know that they're scammers? Like it's really, but maybe they don't. Maybe these people are that deluded. Like from Sam Bankman's free tweet, like it feels as though he really believes what he's saying.
Dude, my parents think that I'm a moron for buying Richard Hart stuff. So it's just the same. It's exact direct opposite as we would say, like, hey, this is naive. This is a hedge. These things do 100x's. There's real liquidity here. They're just saying you guys just like Richard Hart. Like they're not going to look into it like because they don't like him. My dad says that guy reminds me of guys I don't like. That's what literally like first thing my dad says. I know guys like him. I know guys like that. I'm not looking into it. Like I'm over it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying my dad's like that at this point. I've talked about it pretty intimately, but I'm just mentioning that as like in general, everyone thinks that we're getting scammed from Richard Hart.
And that's what obviously all of these other people think. They think that they see him and they see, scammer without looking into it. And so they just go off their feels. And it's like, I mean, eventually you've got to think they have to learn. But it's been years now, and it still hasn't happened. It's like
think about the behavior of Richard Hart, though. Like, if GRC was like, "Hey, you need to watch old videos of Richard Hart," and if I saw his shit now, I'd be like, "This guy's a fucking clown." Like, there's zero chance I want to talk to this fellow.
Oh, Sam would never be here if it wasn't for me vouching for Richard, because he wouldn't like why. Well, he would have just been like, "There's a million things to do." I told him, "Hey, man, this dude really cares." I watched some like 100,000 hours of his footage. And Sam was a really good friend of mine, so he understood, but he was not willing to do that research on his own. I was, because I was super interested in a specific thing, and somebody had put me in that direction and whatever. But I was a friend of Sam's, and I was like, man, I'm telling you, there's really good gains, and like, there's not that many. I was just telling him about the gains and trying to get him involved and showing him some of the nuance there. But Sam was like the only guy in the history of the world I could have communicated about this subject properly with. And I have one guy in my Rolodex, and I called him. Now he's here. So, but anyway, let's play that video one more time. Just
what it does show, though, just one point. What it does show is that the outrage marketing is working. Like, it's getting attention and it's causing people to cry, and that's probably the first step they need in order to start realizing.
I think Richard Hart gets a lot of credit for the wrong reasons, and a lot of non-credit for the reasons he deserves. He deserves to have credit for being very detail-oriented when he came out with Hex about the Howey test, about these laws, and saying, hey, if we're going to have a shot at this, I have to do this right now. And he already did that, and it's out, and it's in there. And if the SEC ain't taking it out, it doesn't care. The marketing doesn't matter. It almost helps us because it keeps the freaking normie rich dudes, not the normies, but the normie rich dudes out. So we still have somewhat of a diluted pool to play with until maybe they catch on and say, hey, things like this don't stop. What if Richard was that insightful? What if he really realized that there's only 2 or 3 things on the internet that are truly decentralized to a degree as far as the way you can move through them on the smart, without the sexes and on the decentralized exchanges. And I think we're in one of the only real markets. And I'm not saying it's not a little fluffy, because it is, but the only real markets in crypto, and Hedron even being way more open market, in my opinion. The Hedron open market really gets me excited because I see the activity, I see the support, I see the intellectual integrity within the understanding of the community, and it gets me really bullish. So, sorry, God, whoa, I just went into a little.
I'd like to Bluebum's very deep into that community, and it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on we've got this ICOSA launch, the stuff with ICOSA happening, right? Meaning new HSIs are perpetually sold per day to the contract. We have like 66 or 6,700 HSIs that amounts to several hundred T shares that have been sold, and they're coming onto the market, or starting to come on the market would be a more accurate way of saying this, in about, what is today's date? The 11th or something, in a few days. So what are your thoughts on this, Blue Bum?
And that's what the last 35 minutes of the show is going to be about, by the way, too. So, but I want you to answer the question. And then we're going to play the video one more time, and then we're going to go into HSI and all that stuff. But I do want to hear your quick take on that for sure.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly bullish. I think anyone around the Hedron ecosystem is like looking at next Sunday and looking for the next few months and into the future going, this is like, it really is super innovative. It's nothing that finance has ever seen, the system that's been created. And as Hedron gets closer up to that ceiling price versus Hex, it's just going to start pulling Hex and Hedron up, because people are going to be able to leverage up without too much risk, especially those people who were early enough to get the launch bonus.
And since nobody knows the thing you just said because it's Spanish, we're going to play this video one time, and I'm going to ask you guys, like, people really did ask me to do this show and like break it down for them, because some people were getting there like pretty much, but man, there's some people that really want some help on this, and I'm going to give them 10 or 15 just so we can move through some of the basics here. And then we're going to get into super aggro advanced, because Hexecutioner just locked me in with so many cool factoids, and I'm so excited to open the room up. But I do want to watch that. I got to remember that dude talked crap about Hex for when I get more popular than him and I have to talk him. So let's pull him up and play it one more time if we don't mind here.
That would be one thing. But no, we had Three Arrows Capital, but I mean, before that we had Do Kwon. Totally Celsius. And then I saw you tweet this out, by the way. Okay, answer me this. Three Arrows Capital liquidated, Alameda liquidated, FTX insolvent, then who made the money and who shows up? Richard freaking Hart goes, hi there, I made all the money. Okay? This dude is a scammer. He runs, he's got a coin called Pulse. He's preying on people, making tons of money, and he's actively scamming. And I feel like our industry is still full of people like this. For every Vitalik, for every Brian Armstrong, for every Hayden Adams or Stani from Aave, we have like 100 Richard Harts. And that just sucks. So what do we do about this? How do we move forward?
I got nothing, man.
How are you feeling about this, David?
It's like we have these like super awesome foundations, and just like they just keep on enabling the worst.
Do you think that
like it's hard to justify what the hell we're doing here, man?
Do you think this is a layer 0 problem? Is it a problem with kind of the social layer?
It's like if we'll make these super cool applications, and then scammers just can leverage them better. It's like we're running out of ways to explain it to normies.
So when someone asks you about crypto after this week, do you have a different answer for them about why it's important?
I don't even want to talk about it.
Hi all. Today, I filed FTX, FTX US, and Alameda for voluntary Chapter 11 proceedings in the US. 2, I'm really sorry again. Oh, no worries, bro. That we ended up here. Hopefully things can find a way to recover. Hopefully this can bring some amount of transparency, trust, and governance to them. Ultimately, hopefully it can be better for the customer. This doesn't necessarily mean that for the end for the companies and their ability to provide value and funds to their customers chiefly, and can be consistent with other routes. Ultimately, I'm optimistic Mr. Ray and others can help provide whatever is best. Great. Well said. Poetic. Very poetic from that guy.
This was what we were talking about the other day. I was like, if I was SPF, I wouldn't be tweeting, because then that can be used against me. and I would be looking for the best, the absolute best, independent of cost. I don't give a shit how much it costs. The best law firm to represent me against as an individual, because he's going to get sued to oblivion. FTX is going to get sued. Ahmed is going to get sued, and he needs different representation across the board. And he is going to be in litigation for years to come in regards to this, because there's going to be multiple different parties that are going to be coming after him across the board for this. And now we see it actually coming out, right? I said this 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, and he found the law firms and filed the bankruptcy. So this is going to be a saga.
So, real quick,
He has a lot of political cover though. He was the second largest donor to Biden.
yeah, but
and
they
he
only
donated
like
to-
politicians only like those guys if they have good reputations. They will actually whoa, we're not
Yeah, he could get thrown under the bus. That's true.
yeah, under the
Yeah.
bus.
Yeah.
You better stop
Yeah.
tweeting. And Sam's saying that lightly, but please, and Sam he's not going to get in. We're not going to get into conspiracy talk here. But in the United States, they have a funny way of getting rid of people that won't shut up and that steal a lot of money. And they don't ship you out in FedEx. You know, they put you in prison, and then they put you in a corner where there's no cameras, and then you do something crazy.
Or they shut the cameras off.
Well, no, of course. Well,
And then they help somebody do something for you.
But we're not going to talk any specific
Give me
women.
the-
We're not going to say any names, and we're not going to do any gestures of any sorts we're not going to get into that. But the United States is a hairy place, and on Blue Bum, we don't even want to make your brain toxic with that kind of atmosphere. Your life is so good for you.
Let's transition back to the HSIs. Let's transition.
Oh, but before you say that, there is some FBI shit, some FBI stuff going on, and I think my name might have. Is there like everyone's mentioning Trayvon? Is my name involved on the FBI list? Because that is something that I would like to know. But that could be a total bullcrap. But Bullish just said that there actually is some stuff. But let's talk. I can't stop thinking about that, but I did. But actually, who cares? Let's talk about the HSI auctions really quick. And Bullish at the end, if you want to pull some of that stuff up, we can. But so let's talk about the HSI auctions real quick, and let's keep it real, chill, and elementary to start. And Blue Bum, I'm gonna start with you real quick. Can you go through just elementary wise, like for people that understand at least Hex and Hedron, you're gonna have to be there, okay? And then we'll start from there. What opportunities does this provide, and what kind of awesome like price action and supply shock, maybe it would be the better word, can be looked forward to this, and what opportunities are you looking for in just like the most general way possible right now?
Okay, well, let's start off real simple. What is like? I'm going to assume people know what a hex stake is. What is an HSI? An HSI is a hex stake made through the Hedron contract. That allows you to have a few more options with that hex stake. It allows you to tokenize it and either send it to another address or sell it somewhere down the track. And it allows you, and also with hex native stakes, you get to mint Hedron for free, aside from the gas cost, based on how many shares, B shares, like every time you make a hex stake, you get a certain amount of shares, and that determines how much yield you're getting every day. And so also with the amount of shares, every day you get a certain amount of Hedron that you can mint. So all of a sudden, you've got this ability to mint this free token from these hex shares. So what's the value in that token? Well, there's other things you can do with it with an HSI. You can also borrow all of the Hedron that hex stake will mint in its life. And so you can get an advance on that. You can get an advance on it if you want a little bit of extra liquidity to play with. And yeah, then later, ICOSA contract came out. And what ICOSA enabled people to do is to also stake their Hedron. And in return for staking Hedron, they get something called ICOSA. And also it enabled people to stake ICOSA and get returns in ICOSA and Hedron. Now, how does it do all this? It does all of this in a completely trustless way with no admin keys, so that where you control your own crypto. So you have control over your money the whole time. It also allowed you to sell hex stakes, which are the HSIs, to the ICOSA contract. And through a formula, you get a certain amount of ICOSA. But over time, that becomes less and less because it's determinant on the hex share rate, which is only ever able to go up. So over time, less and less ICOSA is being able to be minted. So I know that this sounds all pretty complex.
We could jump to Sam, and he could probably piggyback on that a little bit because we do the show every day, so he probably knows what people are looking for and what he's looking for as well. You have anything to add to that, Sam, as far as the way you're looking at it, some of the basics there that could kind of help someone new? And what questions in the chat do you guys have? Please put them below and we'll star them.
I want to ask more, Blue Bum, quickly about what's going on with the market in terms of, we've seen Hex kind of chilling at the 3-cent mark for several months now. With this FTX stuff going on and Sam Bankman and bankruptcy, et cetera, this deleveraging is going to continue, I believe. And as we look at this, the Hex price has been better supported at 3 cents, while the Hedron price is down maybe close to 50% during this time period, right? So what type of opportunities, well, what are your thoughts on that specifically, right? Hex has kind of slightly maintained its price, right? It's been around 3 cents for several months. It's still around 3 cents, where Hedron was around, the 5 zeros and a 4-ish, right? And now it's on, 5 zeros and a 2-ish, right? So it's come down a bunch during that time relative to how much Hex has come down. So what do you think about that? And then also, what do you think about how that changes the dynamics, or does this change the dynamics for these auctions?
Yeah, well, first of all, the market is made up of thousands of participants, and all of those participants have very different perceptions and different awareness and different motivations within their own life, with whether they need money straight away or whether they can delay gratification and all sorts of other things. So everything that we're talking about is everyone's guesses as to why the market is doing this or that. Now, when Hedron was at its bottom, that's when Alex launched ICOSA. And since then, it went up. What did it go up, like 30x or something like that? So it had a huge run up.
From the bottom, it's floored at about 15x.
Okay, 15x. So it had a huge run up. So already there's a lot of let's say bubbliness in that system. Now, why did people ape into Hedron at that point? Because they saw in 3 months' time, when these auctions start happening, that's going to be. They were thinking, well, people are going to want to get Hedron, or even just that there's excitement and FOMO around Hedron. And so everyone starts piling in, thinking that they're going to sell once it gets.
Well, let's ask Sam. Sam, why did you buy Hedron when you started buying it? That's a good place to start. And then I'll answer mine, because I think they're both going to be a little different.
I like Hedron from the standpoint that I'm trying to make the biggest amount of access, right? And I like Hex, right? But Hex is already out there. There's already going to be perpetually dumping on my head, because there's already people who have made hundreds of X's, and they're going to be liquidating for lifestyle choices, business opportunities, et cetera, into perpetuity. Plus, the liquidity on that is way higher than it is for Hedron. And then if you look, Blue Bum had kind of mentioned it earlier, that the ceiling price for Hedron allows for, just off the rip, a 10x at this point, probably like a 15 or 17x before it gets
oversold. I think it's oversold right now,
which I do too. So I'm going to be buying more. So as you look at this, I'm like, where do I believe I'm going to get a bigger bang for my buck in terms of returns? It's not Hex. It's actually Hedron. So I own like a little bit of Hex, but most of what I own is actually Hedron.
Blue, let me come at it first. I want to say, well, actually, no, you go, because me and Sam are similar on that one. So why don't you go? I want to see that. I want to see what you have to say on that.
Okay, so at the bottom, ICOSA comes out. Everyone starts FOMOing into Hedron. Then people, I think, start realizing, as it's getting higher and higher and higher, they start looking at the tokenomics of these auctions. And with these auctions, people are going to be way more, like, if you're a large Hedron holder, you're way more incentivized to pump the price of Hex and not pump the price of Hedron. And that allows more Hedron to be burnt because people are paying more in Hedron for these hex stakes. So that's, I probably think, why there's probably an upward pressure on hex. I mean, it's really hard to differentiate though, because so much is happening in the macro. But
well, I have a take, and I think it's a great take, personally. So in
You should think
asshole. Hey, but it's seriously though. So in hex, the reason I don't buy as much liquid hex as I buy liquid hedron is because in hex, let's say this is the full range of people that have money in hex. At this end, it's the people that have the most. At this end, it's the people that have the least. There's a lot of people in between. And what do we know about people in between? They dump. They're not whales. They dump on your face. They don't provide liquidity. They don't know a damn thing about nothing. And then they'll do a YouTube channel for the rest of their life until the SEC sues them. So it's like, but what really is happening in Hedron is that there's more community awareness and there's a more large, there's not as many floaters in the middle with a couple $100,000 of Hedron ready to dump. But there are a lot of whales, and I see them providing liquidity and teaching people how to provide liquidity and putting the price range at a way that I can see Hedron ain't going under to whatever the range is at, because I can tell that there's someone there with a lot of money, and I know there's not a lot of other guys that can really push that person out, because we know, what do we know about Alex? He's the people's champ. Okay. He is really good at this stuff, and he's doing it in a fair way, and his ego's not involved, and that's my opinion. So I think that he has more upside, one, because of the formula. I think without even ICOSA, I think it still would have had some upward pressure, because the formula per unit, Hedron is very scarce compared to Hex, in my opinion. And it has lower liquidity, and it has upcoming events and things like this. So I think but for the reason that Sam bought is the same reason that I bought. I think the ceiling for Hedron, if Hex were to pump, Hedron would do more X's. Now it depends how much liquidity you want to dump at one time, like which asset you would want to hold most of your wealth in. Because if you have 20 million, you can't dump it on Hedron, really. So
boom, boom. What are your thoughts on this take? Our take here. I think that that there's definitely more access to be had in Hedron, at least off the rip, until it gets to a closer point where I feel a slightly more efficient market, and then I potentially might move to somewhere else. But what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, this is like a game, and like a game of chess. And in terms of tactics, like I used to teach chess, and one of the tactics that we taught kids was there are 3 golden rules. Get your pieces out into the center so that you have places to move. And similarly, I think that having not just one strategy that you think is going to work, but having your pieces out on the board. So having Hedron stakes, having ICOSA stakes, having some liquid Hedron, having liquid hex, staking your hex in HSIs, providing liquidity. These are all the pieces that you can play with. And rather than putting all of your eggs into one basket, because you don't know how the market is going to play out over time, and you don't know when you're going to need money for your life, if you need to, cash out, but playing the long-term game and just having all of these pieces out ready to tweak and to maneuver. Like the relationship between Hedron and ICOSA is really interesting. I'm imagining it like a balloon. And as you burn Hedron, that burnt Hedron comes out as ICOSA, but is only going to Hedron and ICOSA stakers. So
do you see that as a negative in terms of sell pressure for ICOSA?
I think that eventually, we're going to see lower ICOSA prices over time. I don't know how long that's going to take.
I don't think the whales are providing liquidity with ICOSA, because I think that they don't want people to dump it, and I don't think you can dump it. I don't think ICOSA is dumpable. I literally
this whole first year people have been very, very incentivized to have ICOSA and be staking it. because the way Alex set it up is that the SA burnt a whole lot of hedron, which means that was going to fuel the ICOSA yield for the first year. But after that year, the ICOSA yield is going to drop off unless the SA comes in again and burns more hedron, or if the auctions start really picking up and that burns more hedron, or the SA can take a whole lot of the hex that they have from the Watson pools that was given to them and start continuing to fuel those auctions. So the SA has a number of different, they have even more tools than the hex OA.
And they're using them and educating everyone, which I notice education, lots of education over there with the bigger players. And I wanted to mention one thing about, I think it's important to remember that this is going to, if you don't understand everything, just stick with me for a second. But when Hedron is staked, it is burnt. Okay. So stick with me here. When Hedron is staked.
No, it's not. It's not. It's the opposite. The ICOSA is burnt, but the hedron is not burnt.
No, but like if I staked a billion hedron, it's not burnt while I earn.
It's part of the total supply.
So what about the ICOSA is not?
The ICOSA is burnt.
That's what I mean. Okay, so I was thinking about ICOSA for a second. I'm sorry, I got those backwards. So think about the ICOSA pool is that there's no liquidity, right? In that it's brand new, right? In that there's no supply on the market compared to what people actually have from it, right? So what's important there is paying attention to those stake lengths. Like we're getting to day 90 here. Guys, what do you know about day 90? There's stake lengths on that level, but what do we on Hedron? And then there's a lot more on Hedron, I think, at that level. And then ICOSA, there's people that are staked for, so long. And a lot of people had no idea when they staked that they wouldn't be able to take it out, but that's not the point. All that ICOSA is off the market technically until it's back on the market. But what do we know when it's back on the market? There's nothing to dump with. You can have a billion of those bad boys. There's no money there in the liquidity pools yet because they haven't put it there yet.
The only thing about the ICOSA bullish story that I don't like is that I don't see a bullish story for ICOSA in the sense that you're already towards the top of the ARB, which
you're
means
at the max. It's at max demand at the moment. We're seeing absolute max demand for ICOSA right now.
So
and we know that.
$1.
We know that, but we know that because it's at the ceiling cap.
Blue Bum, can you go through it just simply and bring people through what that cap is and how it works so that we can help people through this story?
Yeah, sure. So you can. Yeah, so you can take hex, you can create an HSI, which is a hex stake, and you can sell that to the ICOSA contract for ICOSA. If the market price of ICOSA, if you can get more money, then that just means people are going to arbitrage that down. So if you can get if you can create a hex stake and it costs you $1,000, but you can get $1,200 worth of ICOSA, people are just going to take that and quickly dump it down, and that moves it back down to that ceiling price. And we've seen it just tracking that ceiling price at the moment. And it's actually become a way of looking at the hex share rate. It's probably got this, I'm guessing, I haven't measured it, but it's got the same angle as the hex share rate increasing.
But so think about how there's no liquidity in that pool, in that you can still, let's say Sam put 20,000 ICOSA into the staking pool on day one. Right. And he knows that he couldn't sell that 20,000 ICOSA anyway. Right. He's like, yeah, this will be, I could sell 10% of it, maybe slowly. But what does he know? He's going to have 6 times as much, and the whales will be in by the time he's out. And then he'll just have to probably wait a little longer for it to mature again after the initial whatever. But I'm kind of keeping an eye on that $1 price point. If this thing stays at that $1 price point, bruh, and I'm all over it because there's no liquidity yet, and I feel like I only use it for the staking pool. It's literally one of the only things I use for staking at all. And I buy ICOSA real cheap and just put it into the staking pool, but that's just like optionality. Not everyone would do that.
I think ICOSA, for me, buying opportunities for ICOSA, which I don't own much ICOSA at all, and the ICOSA I do own is staked. But for me, the buying opportunity with ICOSA is when we see a drop. So how might that play out is, well, we have people around the 270-day mark from launch and the 360-day mark from launch that have decent amounts that will be coming out. But what really I think going to be the catalyst is this auction process, because if people are going through this and they're able to pick up hex stakes, say on average for 5 to 15% of a discount relative to what they were at, then this can help fuel this. But that, like Blue was saying, it's like a seesaw in the sense that you have an increase in how much Hedron is burnt, and you probably have an increase in the supply of Icosa. That increase in the supply of Icosa, if what I think could happen, where Icosa drops down off of that hard point, those may be, and I'm not saying anybody should do any of the things I talk about, right? But those could be potentially good buying opportunities. Like when shit comes out in 360 days, right? Or whatever from launch. And if this increases the supply of Icosa a lot, because then you could have those points where it's below, and you could think potentially it might drive it up, because why is the supply high enough to be able to drive the price down? Because there's not enough demand for it in some fashion. But that means that there's probably a boatload of Hedron that's being burnt, i.e. the demand could increase because the yield is going to be going up in Icosa.
The thing about Icosa is that it's never going to moon unless Hex moons.
Correct.
If Hex moons, it's going to moon along with it, but it's not going to moon separate from Hex because it's at that price cap. But the interesting thing about Icosa is because the way it's determined how much is coming out is based on the Hex share rate, it's slowly increasing in value compared to, like, that ceiling is very incrementally over time going up. And so it's like a small return on investment for holding Icosa over Hex. But then again, you could also look at the Hex, and with these auctions, everyone's assuming, or a lot of people are assuming, that people are going to buy these HSIs and then sell them back for Icosa. But the better value play might just be to hold that HSI over time. And you're getting all of that, the maximum amount of yield, especially if it's a 5-5-5-5. And long term, I've always thought that out of the three, I think Hex and Hedron are probably the better value propositions.
I agree.
But Icosa is still very, very interesting, and it's still an integral part because it's tracking that Hex share rate up compared to Hex.
Well, can you talk about the Hex share rate and the tracking on that? What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, the way these pools are determined is a formula. Like how much yield comes out every day is a formula. And in that formula, you get a number. I can't remember exactly what the formula is now, but you divide by the Hex share rate. And the Hex share rate can only ever go up. So because you
Oops, we lost Boom on there for a second. So you get the amount of like Hedron burnt or something along those lines, and then you're dividing it by a number that only goes up, right? So that number that only goes up means you have the numerator and the denominator. The denominator goes up, which means that the amount that comes out is going to go down over time. Hopefully Bloom actually is able to come back here in a second. Let's see here. I'm going to say hi to Pacific Northwest Hex. Question for each of you. Is the play still to just add any Hedron you buy to your Hedron stake? For me, I don't have that strategy personally, but I know that's some people's strategy to go through and add on. When they buy it, you can add that to your stake and still be able to get the highest yield, right? If you got in towards the beginning, you can add that to it. It's going to adjust your stake length in the Icosa pool. Or another play is going through and trying to find HSIs that are coming out that you could buy at a discount. We looked at some the other day where the HSI that is coming out is already at the end of its term, meaning if you had a 90-day Hex HSI stake You sold to Icosa, and then on day one, now that stake is coming out at the same day as the auction. So that means that you can take that, convert that, and you can go through and just sell your hex if you can buy it at a cheaper price. So say there's $1,000 worth of hex in there, but you could go through and buy, $600 worth of Hedron to purchase that. You can go around and turn it immediately. So with those ones, you could have potentially multiple options, because you could send that right back through the Icosa contract and pull money out that way, or you have the option to do that with the hex stake. But we actually have another special guest we're going to bring on, the Crypto Sloth in the house. So we'll be right back.
What's up, Sam?
There it is. Hey, and Blue Bomb. There we go. So,
did I offer?
You were talking about the Icosa being tied to the T-share rate, and then that's where you cut off. So if you want to finish that thought, please.
Well, I mean, my point is that for Icosa is not going to do like multiples, obviously, because it keeps getting ARB down, and so it's going to take hex to moon for Icosa to moon along with it. But on the other hand, because it's we divide by the T-share rate, and the T-share rate can only go up in terms of working out the Icosa yields. That means that over time, it just slightly gets more valuable compared to hex in a very incremental way.
Can you explain that? What's the numerator on that? How much Hedron's burnt?
No, the numerator. What's the numerator again, Sloth?
The top. So if the denominator is
advanceable Hedron.
Right.
Okay, so the top is the amount of Hedron that is advanceable.
HSI buybacks, right? Like if you're selling, the numerator is the advanceable Hedron, the denominator is the T-share rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as the denominator goes up, that means less and less over time.
Yep.
And unless hypothetically the average duration continues to go out towards 15 years, then so if we looked at, say, the average duration of HSIs that were sold to the contract, it's probably skews to higher than the average stake length in hex.
Yeah, they're all 5.
No, it doesn't matter. It's the universal hex share rate that is the denominator.
But in the top, right, the numerator, that numerator number, if it's below 15 years, and say, so there's been 6,900 or whatever.
There's just little incentive for people to make stakes for less than Quattro Cinco and then sell to the cost.
If you look on hexmodel.com, most of the HSIs that were sold were max stake lengths. Because that's like the most economically efficient. Like if you're doing anything, if you're trying to get Icosa, you do anything less than Quattro Cinco, you're losing money for no reason.
Also, because you get that 10% bonus for a Quattro Cinco.
Exactly. But is like kind of what you're trying to say, Sam. It's like if you have enough advanceable Hedron, you can kind of overtake the increase in the T-share rate to like continue to get more Icosa. Is that where you were going with that?
Yeah, I was thinking if the average for an HSI sold to Icosa is, say, 12 and a half years, right? Because, yes, I agree, 100%. That's 100% accurate. There's a bonus to do 555, right? And a decent number of people did do 555. But there are some people that did 30 days. There are some people that did 90 days. There are some people that did 63 days, right? There is a diversity of the pool of HSIs in there. So if you look at that average number of advanceable HSI, could hypothetically actually increase, as say if that average number was 9 years, which means that you could get 9 years times the B share rate times the Hedron, etc., gives you the numerator number. That numerator number could potentially, probably unlikely, but could potentially.
It would take people getting more shares. It would take people putting more hex in to get more shares. And over time, that's more difficult.
That's what I'm worried about.
Going up.
That's exactly what I'm worried about. I have no idea if people are going to do that. And I don't know if it matters. Some guy told me it didn't matter, and he had actually some cool points. Well, he said, yes, some people have to come in. but I was like, we need more people to make HSIs out of Hex, don't we? That's my question. Like a lot more people.
No, not necessarily.
Just
Yeah,
real quick,
yeah.
Sam, I'm a little confused. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. Why is the average stake length for HSI important? Because just from my initial thoughts, it's each individual HSI that's important, not the average of all of them that exists.
From the standpoint that the inflation could go up if that goes up, right? So if you have the numerator increasing at a certain rate as the average goes up, and the denominator also increasing, right? Because you would assume, potentially logical, I would think it would be logical, maybe somebody could argue it's illogical, but that the average length of an HSI, wherever that number is, it's below 15, we can all agree on that, is probably going to accelerate closer to that 15 mark. If during that journey, it accelerates, say, from 9 years to 15 years, and that happens over the course of a 6-month period of time, while at the same time the T-share rate accelerates at a lower rate. That could have a
Oh my God, that was totally my fault. I'm so sorry.
So that could have that could increase the supply of ICOSA. I was just trying to think out loud about
this. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So basically, your point is that as we have most of the stakes are the max stake length, they're the most capital efficient, but we do have some that are not. So like say like 1,000 T shares at an average at 10 years is less advanceable hedron than 1,000 T shares at 12.5 to 15 years. So as people understand the system better and understand, hey, I want to sell the longer ones, only the max ones, the inflation that we're going to see in the future, even with the same number of T shares, is going to be higher. Did that?
Correct. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
All right, well, now that everyone wants to
explode. Anyone making less than Quattro Cinco, if they plan to sell to ICOSA, is losing out at the individual level for no reason, probably just because they don't understand.
Yeah, like there's no reason. If you're going to do it anyway and make it tradable, you get a whole 10% bonus, right? That's a lot. And then the max length stake is the best deal anyway. So most of the people would have done 4,000 to 5,555 anyway, even if there wasn't a 10,000 because of the max length bonuses. And then you're just getting 10% on of it. So basically he made it almost basically automated that people would do that, at least in the beginning stages.
So here's the thing. Now, given this, that I think that was interesting, at least for me, I thought it was interesting, the dialogue there, given that we see this happening, right? Like, I think we can all agree that 555 is probably the most capital efficient thing to do with one's money if they care about making money, right? Well, that doesn't include people who have those, right? But that's going to be a smaller segment of people, right, as time goes on. So this average is probably going to increase. Given that we understand the future, probably a little bit more nuanced than some people do, that is a lot of the times in financial markets how you make money, by understanding things at a slightly more nuanced detail than other people. Now, how could this affect things would be an interesting question. Is this enough of a valuable piece of information that this could present some type of opportunity as we move forward? Or is it one of those things like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's interesting, that is accurate, but probably not going to affect things from a price standpoint for us to profit from it? Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that?
I cut out a little bit in the middle of that, so I didn't catch all of it.
Are basically you saying, Sam, like everything under that, are you trying to figure if everything under a 555, if there's any kind of way you could, whether that's a large bulk of money or something else, that somebody could profit within those ranges?
Because we know it's going to be, we know that average is going to increase. So is there any way to profit from that?
Right.
Here's a potential scenario where somebody might sell an HSI for less than the max. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Like, when would somebody
pretty much. That seems like that's what I was thinking.
Well, if you know something, like I knew Tesla was going to be a massive company, so I put money there, and I knew that this was not understood by the marketplace. So I understand right now the average HSI sold to ICOSA is X. In the future, it's going to be X plus something. It's going to increase. There's a decent chance in my mind it's going to increase because of the capital efficiency of of how the system is set up. Given that information is true, if you believe that to be true, how or does that present an opportunity in some way?
Yeah, so I think the opportunity now really lies in your ability to obtain ICOSA and then obtain as much inflation from the hedron that we're about to get burned. And so bringing that back to like the HSI portion, the HSI buyback portion, it's understanding that when you're accumulating ICOSA, it needs to be 5555 to get the most ICOSA, to stake to get the most this big influx of inflation that we're about to get.
And remember, Sam, a lot of the regurgitation of these pools pumps the pools up, I'm pretty sure. And like a lot of this action makes those pools more valuable. So a lot of people with a lot of money that know they can't get out from the ICOSA liquidity anyway. We were kind of talking about ICOSA because when you stake ICOSA, it's burnt off the market. What do we know about ICOSA? It's brand new. What do we know about this supply? There's nothing there yet. And there's very little on the market. So the market numbers as far as ICOSA are very just fragile and new. And I think that's a big benefit right now that it's not sinking deep with fat liquidity, because then when those stakes come out, everyone could dump. But what do I know? When those stakes come out, they're probably going to provide LP and let like the new guys dump. And like, you know, because there's nothing for them to do anyway. They got to support the system one more round to even get themselves in position to make a really big play because they're huge players.
I mean, the biggest value that we've seen with Hex actually hasn't come from the Hex yield. It's come from the price increase. And that's as more and more people have realized what it is and saw the incentives and have been selfishly, you know, had their own self-interest at heart by wanting to make money. And so they've locked up the Hex, and that's taken it off the market, and the price has gone up as more people find out about it as well. So that's probably a similar thing is going to happen with Hedron and ICOSA. Like as more and more people work it out, that's where the demand is.
Yeah. And then your ability to play in the system, especially from a liquidity perspective, passive income, market making, whatever way you want to approach it, is dependent on the amount of inflation that you're getting in these early days where that inflation is available. Right? Like the early day Hexicans got a lot of inflation because they participated early, and now they have the ability to do all these cool LP games based on the both the Hex that they have as well as the volume of T-shares that they have that has granted them the amount of Hedron and now even ICOSA that they can have.
Because
So,
what do
yeah,
we all know
like
about Hex? The lion's share of Hex gains were made from people that bought in the first year. What do we know about Hedron? It's not been a full year at all yet. What do we know about Hex? Everyone, there's like 100, 500, maybe 1,000 people that are just one bad word away or block from dumping their liquid bags because they've had enough. And that's bullish for us. Trust me, if you get a buy at those levels. But I'm just saying, like Hedron, what Alex created and the opportunity he created for new investors within this ecosystem was something that needed to happen so bad. And guys like me were not going to stick around. They just weren't. Sam was not. I'm telling you, Sam is only. I'm just going to be frank. I think Sam's only here generally because the Hedron really excited him. The opportunity there, like he really has not bought Hex up to this point. I'm pretty sure.
Like in terms of opportunity, we're going to be able to, like in a year's time, we're going to be able to look back and say, oh, this would have been the best strategy, or that would have been the best strategy. But that's impossible to know now. And if we would have known that information anyway, that would affect the markets anyway. So it's like it's just a like if you're playing in this sandbox, that's where the opportunity is, and that's where the value is going to I mean, my guess is that's the
value for me comes from understanding all of the system and just being able to utilize it like as these things kind of play out. Like I think every piece of the system has a little bit something to offer for everyone. And I think when they're in better shape, others will be in better shape than others. And sometimes,
and at the absolute basic, simplest level, like it's you take a Hex stake, you're able to earn Hedron from that. You're able to stake that Hedron. You earn ICOSA from that. You're able to stake that ICOSA. Like for anyone who's finds it all too complicated, just that's the tactic.
Do you see a potential? Because I think as the crypto space in general grows, we get more intelligent people, more creative people, more resourceful people where you could see a world where you have a wrapped thing. So say, a hex stake in a contract is now wrapped as an HSI, where that HSI could theoretically just be staked in some other protocol where that's all playing in the background, but then this HSI is also spitting something off as it is without even being sold to ICOSA. It's just, hey, I have this thing sitting there. It could be utilized to generate, something else in some other system. Maybe that's related to LP or something along those lines. I'm not sure how, but I think that this type of thing could potentially play out in the future as this community.
Imagine earning a lot of yield on Hedron, something that has real liquidity, with something that doesn't have real liquidity.
Well, we're already
at a
seeing
large rate.
That's what Poly is.
Yeah,
Poly, you're going to swap your Hedron for Poly. By the time that you redeem that Poly, you're going to have Hex, Hedron, and ICOSA from that. And at any time along that point, depending on the liquidity pools, like you're going to be able to swap that Poly for something else. The other thing that we're seeing is that a place like Hex Market has come out, and you can create any kind of combination of financial product you want, because you can create an NFT and then you can attach ERC20s to that, as many or as much as you want. You can put other NFTs onto that. So you can create a Hex Market NFT, add a WhatsApp NFT to it, add an HSI to it, add some Poly to it, add some Maxi to it, add a bit of whatever else you want, and you can sell that whole thing potentially.
Oh, that's very interesting. So you could.
We had that guy on way back when, Sam.
Correct, I remember that. But that was before anything of this was actually developed. So
yeah, we were like, no, he was talking about staking. We were kind of just like, yeah, whatever. Like, no one's gonna do that. Like it was just like, are you really like? You just don't know what you don't know, and then these things come to fruition. Guys, we actually do have to wrap up. Now, I'm going to be streaming a lot today. Now, I'm trying to also bring awareness to the HSI auctions more from an educational standpoint than like my, neurotic game theory. That's more green room talk. I don't want to talk about my plays too much right now. It's a sensitive time for a lot of people. I don't want to be rude. One, I don't want to be like insensitive, because my risk profile as a 28-year-old with no bills is just way different than 99% of people. So it's not really, I could say I put $1,000 on this, $1,000 that, or I could just, tell people what I really think about what's going on in the ecosystem and why I'm excited about Hex, why I'm excited about Hedron. Dude, taking the Hex Hedron Ethereum route as a YouTube streamer is not the easy route. It's the harder route, but it's really, we're seeing now that it's the best route ever. We see Sam Bankman-Fried getting perma-wrecked. Let's see if Tron will get perma-wrecked if they were all in bed together. Let's see how many people get perma-wrecked. And we will sit here and we will remember that Richard said, I created something that was immutable and sticky and had a good community, and it was meant to survive when everything dies. Just survive, though, right now. It's meant to survive. Cardano did a 99% dump, and now everyone's talking about it like it's fucking Jeebus Christ.
Yeah, you want to talk about bullishness for Hex, like all this like fire and like mayhem in the centralized exchange world, giving up your keywords is just setting the stage for more adoption into something like Hex, where the narrative from day one or even before day one were the exact things that would have prevented people from getting wrecked, and exactly what's happening this past week. So I think all of this stuff is just setting the stage for that greater viral move up that Hex still has yet to have within the greater crypto community, which is pretty sweet to see, especially for us who have been in it way before it started and have been accumulating before everybody's caught up.
I remember the day Hex launched, since people were like, that's the biggest scam, and I was like, what the hell is all this shit? Like, I had not a damn clue what any of it was, and it's just funny to watch. But that's where hard work, you can never beat hard work. Charles Hoskinson yesterday mentioned that before we go. He mentioned like, you will see right through it if they're not working hard and they're not really pushing. You can see it. Maybe you won't believe your mind when you see it, but you can see it. Look at someone, check their actions, see what they're doing. people are predictable. You are a person as well. See what they're doing and seeing if they're going up to a higher standard than yourself. Because if you're building a cryptocurrency and trying to take over like fintech, you should be at a pretty high standard. So they're allowed to be better than you. They should be better than you. They shouldn't be freaking fat as shit out of every kind of bad thing you could imagine. Yeah, everyone has their shit that different from another, but like we want to promote positive emotional fitness moving forward because that's the only way we're going to be able to stay here. Like people are going to get so scared, but like there's some people up on this panel that haven't made a dime from Hex, but I still love Hex because I understand what's going on there and I'm really excited. Guys, anyway, I could talk all day, obviously, and just cut everyone off, but this has been an incredible show. I've really enjoyed it.
Blue Bum, I appreciate you coming on, and Sloth, always great to see you.
Thanks for the invite.
Where can they find you guys?
Thank you. Love you guys.
Love you.
Where can people reach out to you? Blue Bum, start with you, and then we'll get to Crypto Sloth. Where can people find you?
At Blue Bum in Telegram, and I'm mostly in the Hedron crypto Icosa hedronologists and the Icosa Telegram chats, and at Blue Bum is da man on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Crypto Sloth on YouTube, and then let's see if I do it the right way. And then that right there, Sloth Crypto 3 on Twitter. I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna start putting my handle in this stuff, and that'll probably make it easier.
And guys, I'm going to be going live here again in 35 minutes. And for YouTube, if you could be somewhat available this week before the HSI auctions, just like I'll be just sending links around. If whenever you're free, you could hop in. I really just want to promote some education in that realm, just because I think Alex has done a good job making that kind of like the narrative around Hedron. It's like the more mature, there's a little meme going around that we tell our parents that Alex is Richard. They're like, oh, who's this Richard Hart guy? And we're like, just send him a picture of Alex and just like send him his resume. And then they're like, oh, we love this guy. He's very nice, normal. Like, so again, it's a joke. Obviously it's a meme. But again, Alex has done a great job and I want to promote great work. And I can't even talk to the guy, frankly. And if anyone in here is good buddies with him, tell him to come on my show ASAP. Everyone have an amazing day. It's your boy GRC. I'm going to be live again in probably like 10, 15 minutes, depending on the bathroom break. But I'll be at it. Well, let's check this out before we close. Is there audio?
Doesn't sound like it.
Does anyone smell anything smoky?
Did you bring your jerky in again?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Fire! Oh, fire! Oh my goodness! Oh my god! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm! Wait. Everybody calm down!
Was warm me.
Oh my gosh!
Out of option. Jeez.
Okay. Oh, have you ever seen a burn victim? Okay. Procedure. Exit options. Where do we go, folks? Use a what to cover the mouth? Remember your exit points. Exit points, people. What's next? Huh? Stay alive. I'm getting help.
Pull me up!
You're too heavy.
I only weigh 82 pounds. Save Bandit! What is that?
The fire's shooting at us. Oh my God!
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking a blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some hacks and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some maxi and that's just in case. Jim Reddit sent me to show you the way. in the morning.